Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 12. That's correct. We have made it this far. Episode number 12 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we are once again coming to you from the international headquarters of GSM Services right here in downtown Gastonia, and are looking forward to having some great discussions in the coming weeks and months. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We're highlighting another great organization, and I have two of my favorite people in the whole world here with us today. We have Dr. Rodney Freeman and Cathy Young. Rodney is the pastor of Mount Zion Restoration Church, and Cathy is officially the chief volunteer and recruiter for Bountiful Blessings. So is that a fair way to describe that?
That's good.
All right. Rodney, Cathy, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, Cathy, we're going to start with you, if you don't mind. Just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, anything you'd like to share.
I came to Gaston County 23 years ago when I moved to Cramerton, and I am married to David Young, and 17 years. And I'm a real estate broker with Allen Tate, and I've been with Bountiful Blessings for 1 year this week.
Oh, wow. That was good timing then.
Yeah.
Of course, this will be a few weeks when this is actually released, but going back in time, that's really, really good timing. Yeah. And real estate agent extraordinaire is what I've understand, correct?
I would like to think so.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's a fact. Rodney, what about you, sir?
I am from the big city of McConnell, South Carolina.
Know exactly where that is.
Know where that is?
Yes.
Yeah, population of 300 people. Right. I was born and raised there by my dad, me and my brother, and I am married to my high school sweetheart. That's a good story. And I've been at Mount Zion for 20 years this past December. And it's the only church I've ever pastored, and probably be the only church I will ever pastor.
Well, that's interesting. 20 years is a long time.
Yep, it is.
I know I'm a Methodist, and we don't put up with that for 20 years. We move them out every 6 or 7 years. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's bad when that happens. So we're going to kind of get right into our discussion today, and we may talk about multiple things, but I want to focus on Bountiful Blessings. So can you, Rodney, can you share just kind of how that got started and how you both ended up being so involved with it?
All right. Well, prior to me coming to Mount Zion, once first I got called into the ministry, I had a vision. All right. And so before I had a church, I had a vision that I was going to be in this community, and I was going to be working in this community. And I was going to be making an impact into this community. And so the food pantries, Bountiful Blessings is only a portion of that vision.
Right. Okay.
So we started that this year be 19 years. We started that, and I can remember the first food pantry we had. We had it at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. We had 7 canned goods. There was 2 people that showed up. Their name was Linda and Faye. They took 2 cans each, left 3 cans for those who may be coming afterwards, and we blossomed from there.
Oh, wow. I was not aware of that story, and I should have been. So 19 years. So how did it get to what it that is so different than what I have witnessed a couple of times that I've been over there? How did it get to where it is now and relative to that first time, and how many people kind of have you been serving? I know it may have changed with what we've dealt with the last year and a half or so, but kind of how's it grown and how has it changed compared to that very first day?
Wow. Well, the very first day, really when we started, it was just really to make an impact into the local community there around our church. So that's what we were doing, just making sure that the people around the church, things were taken care of in that community. But prior to the pandemic, we were feeding about 300 people a week. Okay, so it kind of evolved to that. But once the pandemic hit in March of 2020, the county commissioners met with some pastors here in the community, and they wanted to know, could we be able to feed up to 1,000 people, because they were getting ready to shut the city down for 2 weeks. And so they gave me a $1,000 check and said, we need you to feed 1,000 people. So I guess everybody get $1 worth of food. and so we went from feeding 300 people. The next week, we fed 4,000 people. Showed up. And so throughout this pandemic, it has evolved into something that I never, ever had any idea, dream, vision of, or anything. But I just knew when I started it, that's what we're supposed to be doing. And so here we are. We're at a place now that this past week, it put us over 212,000 people we fed in the last 16 months.
All right. I want to go back for a second and reiterate what I just heard, and for our listeners especially. In 1 week, did you basically say you just went from 300 to 4,000?
4,000 people.
Was that a shock to the system?
It was a shock to the system.
But wow, really what a story!
Yeah, it was. It was a great partnership. We're in partnership with Second Harvest in Charlotte,
right.
So we made the call up to them and just asked them could they supply us with as much food as possible because our city was getting ready to shut down. And man, it was amazing. And it blows my mind because we didn't have any idea. So can you imagine where our church is located? We had Bessemer City Road on lockdown. We had Crescent Lane on lockdown. Man, and the police, the story I like to tell, the police, someone called the police and told them, said, man, they got a traffic jam.
Something's going on.
Something's going on. So at the time, Chief Rob
that's a good description. Something big was going on.
Something big was going on. So Chief Rob Hilton called, someone called him and told him that, man, they got a mess over there. And so police come over there. Can you imagine, pull up in our parking lot with the light on? He was like, who's over this? And I was like, I am. He's like, man, you can't do this. So I got my phone down while he was standing there, and I called Chief Helton. I said, Chief Helton, I said, man, what are your guys out here harassing me? He said, who is it? And I said, man, what's your name? He told me his name. He said, tell him to get out of there. I said, man, your chief said, get out of here, man. And so he left. And they sent some guys up there to help us with the traffic, so it was funny.
Oh, wow. So then a few sentences later, I think you said 212,000 people in 16 months.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I call real impact.
Yeah, it's a major impact, and still going. I thought things would kind of calming down a little bit, but we're still averaging over 3,000 people right now.
So, and just for our listeners who might not know, where exactly is the church located?
It's 2311 Crescent Lane, Gaston, North Carolina.
Kind of at the intersection of Bessemer City Road and Crescent Lane.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to shift over to the chief volunteer, recruiter, officer, head person.
I'm so excited to have an official title. That's all news to me this morning.
That's impressive. That might be worth a fine at Rotary. So, Cathy, how did you said you just you're celebrating your year anniversary. So how did you get involved, and what kind of called you to be so involved?
I had actually just finished a discernment process in the Episcopal Church, and
okay.
I knew that I was being called to lay ministry. And my dear friend, Deacon Brenda Gilbert, said at St. Mark's one Sunday, we're going to need to go and volunteer. They are doing something over at Mount Zion that is not like anything I've ever seen. She said, it is a well-oiled machine, but they just need more hands. So I told her I would go, and I went, and I haven't missed a week. If there was any way I could be there, I think I've missed twice. And I just love it. It's I'm there to support Rodney when he gives you the story of how he started the food pantry. If God told him to feed people, and what he had the ability to do was get 7 cans, that's what he did.
Right.
And to go to the numbers that he's at now, it seems like an overnight thing to us, but God had been preparing him for so long. It's an amazing thing to get a front row seat to watch what happens there, because it is a ministry unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, most overnight successes have a history of about 20 years worth of of activity and actions happening and callings and volunteers and other so many other things that happen. And to the outside it might appear that it was just an overnight success, but that's rarely the case. So I mean, I think we already know what this is, but can you tell me a little bit about the mission? Is there anything else you'd like to share about the specific mission of it, or is it simply what you're doing is feeding those that or that you have the need in the community?
I think our mission statement is to alleviate food insecurity within Gaston County while providing access to healthy food choices. So that's kind of our mission statement, but it's so much, I think it's evolved now to something that's way beyond food.
Yeah, speaking of the mission, and one of the questions I typically ask is, what are some of the initiatives with the organization? But we might come back to that, maybe to talk about the church in general, maybe something else that the two of you guys might be involved with. But speaking of kind of the impact, I happened to be there with the United Way the day that the vehicle, the van, was delivered. Kind of, so you talk about the far-reaching impact and involvement, or you never know. You think Bessemer City Road and Crescent Avenue. What else? How could we impact further away? So, kind of, you mind sharing how that came about and where the young lady was from, or?
You probably need to tell the story of the van, but as far as how far-reaching it is and where help is coming from, in the very beginning, they move a lot of food, and it's from refrigerator trucks out to covered tent areas, and so we had to have a forklift. And so Rodney was praying before he started one week, and he said, we're going to need a forklift, and we're going to need it now. And through a Facebook post, a friend saw that, and the forklift ended up coming from California.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember hearing that one. That is unreal.
Yeah, so it's funny where all the help comes from. But a young girl had found out about Bountiful Blessings, and she was the one that decided to raise the money and help with purchasing that van.
So how did that come about exactly?
16. Well, matter of fact, we had did a WCNC.
Okay.
They had came by the church to do a story on us, and Fred just asked, what is it? Something that you need? I said, man, we need a cargo van, and so he ran it, and he ran it in the camp in unison with the campaign for United Way.
Okay. Yeah.
We were just,
I remember that.
Just getting some, just reaching out to get something, and so the thing was, she happened to see it, and she just went and told her dad and said, hey, those people need a van, let's do it. Mind you now, she's 16 years old. And so she got her dad's business partners, and I think community people in the community, her friends, and she raised the funds. Matter of fact, she raised beyond the funds. They bought the van and then gave us a check for $7,000.
Yeah, I got news for you. When I was 16, that is not the kind of thing I was doing or thinking about, Yeah, frankly, that was impressive on so many levels. I mean, mainly from her, actually. Right. To see a need and actually take action. There's always need out there, but ultimately it takes somebody taking action. One of the reasons we're here talking about, Bountiful Blessings today is very, very similar. Can you maybe share, is there something specific you can share, or maybe an example, what are you most proud of accomplishing during your time at Bountiful Blessings, or maybe an anecdote of a family or anyone that has you met or has really been impacted by the, I'm not sure if is this fair to call it a program of the Mount Zion Restoration Church, or is it its own organization? I mean, it's
a ministry.
Okay, thank you. That's much better.
Yeah,
that's why you're here, Rodney. Like I said earlier, who knows what I'm going to come up with?
I got you. I let Cathy share that. She more while I'm lining up the food under the tent, she kind of handling the volunteer. With the people, interacting with them. So I let her share. She's heard more stories than I have.
I think that people immediately think, well, they're going there to get food and be fed. And there are people coming there that are coming there for the food, but they are hungry in so many other ways. And COVID just magnified everything. We have all different walks of life coming through the line. We have seniors that live alone, and we were the only person that they were having any contact with during a week. And we have non-English speaking families that don't know where to get resources. And then we have people that aren't in need but are there to collect the food to minister to families that don't have a vehicle, aren't able to get there. So it's a big cross-section. I could write a book about all the stories.
I'm sure you could, yeah.
But there was one just a couple of weeks ago where a non-English speaking lady that comes through the line every week with her kids, I don't speak Spanish, but we communicate every week. And a couple of weeks ago, she brought a friend with her, and the friend introduced herself to me, and she said, she wanted me to come with her to give you a message. She said there's no way that they could have gotten through this last year without the food that has come from here. But she has cancer, and she has been sick, and on the mornings that she felt like she couldn't get up and go, she thought about that woman with the blonde hair that she knew was going to have a kind word and a smile. And, before Rodney opens the line to have cars start driving through, he prays with the volunteers, for the volunteers, and for everyone in the line. And he makes sure that everyone understands we are not here to judge. You don't know who's coming through that line, and you don't know what their life is. And while they're on his campus, we're there to provide hope and show them God's love in any way that we can do that. And it's exciting. I'd like to say I go to help the people, but if I'm truly honest with myself, I showed up for myself, and I go back every week for myself, and it is the greatest cup filling a person can get. It's a very special place, and what is happening on that campus is it's pretty amazing on a lot of different levels. Last week there was a new car coming through that I didn't recognize, and there was a young boy in the back seat, probably about 5 years old, and I said, "Hey, how are you?" And he said, "Is this where I can get food?" And I said, "Yes, it is." I said, "It's right up there. You're getting close." And he started speaking a mile a minute to the adults in the front seat. Just the excitement. You haven't seen a kid on Christmas morning as excited as he was that there was going to be food. And, cars start lining up at 3 and 4 in the morning. And so you have people that have been sleeping in their cars. And, of course, we had to change that and ask people to start coming later because they couldn't get school buses through and people couldn't get out of their driveways. But, 100 stories.
Okay, that is a lot to unpack right there. We could spend, that might be one we might have to transcript out. That was a couple of things I've learned and through COVID especially is that interaction with others is so important. A good example, getting back to Rotary in person for me was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Also, through my interactions and volunteering with United Way, Rotary, whatever organization it might be, I've learned too that there's always something we don't know,
Right.
especially when you're dealing with individuals. And that has been a really good lesson for me that, to your point about, when they're on that campus, we're there to serve them, you're there to serve them and not judge them and give them a place of hope. Hope is just a terrific word, and I love talking about that. But there's always, and frankly, whether it's in business, whether it's at your church, whether it's at a organization like this or anything, there's always something you don't know. But we'd like to think we know everything, right?
Right.
So after that, Cathy, maybe we should just stop the podcast now. I don't know if we could go any further with something, but of course we're going to keep going. So I love this next question, and again, we basically already answered it, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Can you kind of both maybe start with you, Rodney? Can you share in your own words why is Gaston County better because Bountiful Blessings is here?
Wow. I think one of the things it started out as food, but I think it's so much bigger than food now. Okay, and I think one of the things with what the food pantry has done for me and what I see, there's a diverse of people who show up on that campus that if it was not for that food pantry, they wouldn't even know each other. Okay, and so the thing is, what it has done is it has caused us to be able to interact with one another that in a way that we would have never, ever. Because I think interaction and volunteering and helping, it kind of helps us to be able to have some conversation that where it helps us in other areas of life. And so while, we had the incident with Tony, while that was going on at Tony's Ice Cream, we were still over there on Thursday,
right,
interacting, building bridges, getting to know one another. And nobody talked about that, but they always talked about the Tony thing. And so I would share with them is that, listen, there's, the situation going on here, but look at over what's happening right here.
Right.
We never would have. You got diverse of people from different race, economic status, religious backgrounds, all of that over there, every Thursday, and look forward to it, excited about it, and have not had a problem, have not had nobody get sick or anything the whole time. And so I think it's better because it's the one place that where I can truly say that it looks like heaven.
Yeah, there's no question when I was over there that the diversity of the volunteers was encouraging.
Right.
And I think for me personally, that's the majority. Let me be clear, there's always exceptions, but that's the majority of what really goes on around Gaston County and frankly in the country as a whole. But, that's not, what's the phrase, the news isn't looking for that typically. No. So credit to WCNC for taking the time to come, take a look at what's going on over there in West Gastonia. There's a lot of good things happening in West Gastonia, in downtown Gastonia.
It is.
In our business specifically, we're intentionally in downtown in West Gastonia. We've had opportunities to move, but we are intentional about staying there. So I appreciate you sharing that. Cathy, would you have anything to add to that could top that?
No, I think he got it all.
It's kind of a question I normally ask. How do you envision this organization or this ministry in looking 5 to 10 years? But in the future, I think this is one of those where it'd be nice if it wasn't needed.
Right.
But what do you, maybe not 5 or 10 years from now, but just in the future, how do you see this? Maybe thinking back to where it was that first day to today, how do you kind of envision it looking in the next few years?
Okay. So this right here is my plug I want to put in.
Okay.
All right. So there's a building on Shannon Bradley Road, 1520 Shannon Bradley Road, that we are pursuing to purchase. And the reason we're pursuing to purchase it is because Bountiful Blessings has overtaken our campus at the church. Okay, so we need a facility. Okay, so what this looks like to me in the next 5 to 10 years, it looks like from the perspective of that we'll have the food pantry there. Okay, not only the food pantry, but we'll have a homeless care. And what I mean by homeless care is this: it'll be a place where homeless can come and wash their clothes and take a shower. Okay, in this facility. Not only that, but it'll be a place where we're in partnership with Family Promise, which is interfaith. Okay. We're in partnership with them. So we'll use that facility in our rotation to let them stay there.
Good, yeah. Okay. Our church, my church has been involved with that. Yeah.
Okay.
First Methodist.
Good. And then not only that, we'll have a place in there for teen services. And what I mean by teen services is it'll be a place where, not basketball courts, but it's a place where now video games and be able to interact, foosball table, pool table, those type things. We'll do that. And I know you say, with all that out of food, yeah, it is. It's all. I think all of it is a component of what has taken place because of the food pantry. The one thing that I'm looking forward to is that we'll be able to have a clinic, a health clinic, in this facility, because so many of our people, as Cathy can tell you, they come on Thursdays, and we have a lot of medical supplies that we have to give out. And the biggest thing is they need blood pressure machines, and they need the glucose strips. They need those. And so the thing is, the reason that many of them can't get that is because the fact of they don't have a primary care physician or health insurance. And so I've talked to Dr. Andy Dyksterhurst, who's going to help me. Matter of fact, he already set me up with the lady that's going to oversee a clinic for me one day a week, where people can come and get those services. And then the last thing is going to be a training center. Since someone has donated us the 2 forklifts, I have a guy that we have sent to school and already paid for, and he's a trained, certified forklift trainer. And so what we're going to do is train people to be able to get jobs and get certified at forklift driver, and to be able to go get employment, because a lot of jobs now are warehouse type jobs.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we're going to do that. And so all of this started with food, but it's going to evolve into a community resource center.
So from 7 cans to what you just described, that's like going from Gastonia to Jupiter. Unbelievable. Cathy, like you had something to add there?
It's his restoration center is something that is going to happen. And the location is perfect, which is why he's already given an address. But a lot of these things that will happen at the Restoration Center, he is already doing at the church. So it's not just food. We should have said a lot of things happen in that line while people are waiting. Right. We've done COVID vaccines a number of weeks. There's NC Works. He has them come out with the information, and they are going from car to car saying, are you looking for a job? Do you know someone that needs a job? Do you need training? We can help you with your resume. These are all free services. And there have been people that get job placement, and they'll come back the next week and let me know we got the job.
Well, maybe I should be standing in that line with some business cards.
You come out and recruit. I know
wow.
you're hiring.
We are.
I know.
Yes.
We've had Habitat for Humanity out, and they've done the applications for people to get housing. We've done the forklift training. We have Contegra's come out. The health department comes out. There have been opportunities where medicines are given out.
Right.
So there's lots of different needs being met. We've had local dentists that will donate the toothpaste, toothbrushes.
Right.
So there's a lot that's happening there.
We could turn this into about 10 different podcasts. It sounds like with everything you guys have going on. That's terrific. And I know Andy Dykstra personally.
Yes.
He's a really a good guy. He's one of my F3 buddies. And if you don't know anything about F3, I think actually that's the next one we're recording. Got a couple of our buddies. We're going to talk about that. And that's something else maybe I want to talk to you about sometime, Rodney, is F3 and how we could get that more into the community.
Okay.
So
his wife, Kelly, is one of our great volunteers.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, yeah, Kelly's terrific. Our daughters played soccer together, so that's how I first got to know them. But then Andy and I've gotten to be good friends through our F3 group. And again, he's just a terrific guy, terrific family. Yeah. So I'm going to come back to that, to your new location kind of at the end, because we're going to end up, we're going to get specific about what help do you need and how can we get others involved with the organization. So we're going to getting close to shifting gears a little bit, but don't worry, we're going to come back to Bountiful Blessings for sure. So both of you, if you weren't involved with this, what do you think you might be doing?
Wow.
Something similar, probably?
I'll probably, so with me, it's always, it got to be something with people, because I absolutely love people. But if I probably wasn't doing this, to be honest with you, I'd probably be a salesman.
Okay.
I absolutely.
That does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, I
whatever you're selling, I'm ready to buy right now, Rodney.
Yeah, I'll be a salesman. I absolutely. I just love haggling. If that makes sense.
Okay.
We
need a residential. We're looking for a residential salesperson right now.
Right.
Well, you know what? In some ways, to go from 7 cans to what you've got now, there has to be a little of that going on.
Yeah, got to be some negotiation.
Yes, it sure does.
Yeah, I love it, man. I absolutely, I just love it. I'd be selling something while being a community, activist or something. Because I love people, and I just love to see people on the margins of life come up.
Oh yeah, ultimately that's a big part of what it's all about.
Yeah.
Cathy, what about you?
Something mission related. We have a homeless crisis in Gaston County, and that's something that I'm really committed to improving, getting people off the streets and into homes.
I think we recorded with Kay Penniger last week with Habitat, and we talked a little bit about the Belmont project that's upcoming. I know that you've got a little bit of involvement with that. So, yeah, I think as we've recorded these podcasts, a big that particular question is very similar. I mean, most people who are doing things like you guys are doing, it is about the people, and you have to have a heart for it, a calling or whatever. And that typically, when I ask that question, it's something related, whether it's helping people in some way or another. So is there anything I haven't asked but should have? Anything else you'd like to share about Bountiful Blessings or Mount Zion Restoration Church, or anything kind of before we move into what really people care about?
What they really care about.
I'm kidding. Anything else you'd like to share, or some question I haven't asked? There might not be.
No, I would just really love to encourage people to come out and volunteer.
Okay.
I was taking a step back and looking last week, and on the line, passing things out, we have a medical doctor right next to a woman who has been coming through the line for the last year and wanted to give back. And Miss Ruby showed up early in the freezer and worked hard with me all day. And, then we have a business owner, and then we have a retired person, and it is all different colors, sectors of life,
yes,
social status, and you can't tell who's who, and the connection and the camaraderie that happens there is something that I don't know where else you could get it.
There's so many unintended positive consequences often for things like this. And you made a point earlier when you went on your discussion that we have to write down and record and and make part of history. That was so good. About it's also okay to you mentioned that part of it's going out there for yourself. You know what? And it's okay to feel that way. I mean, if you're have any care at all for humanity, it's okay to feel good when you're helping others.
Yeah.
That's just a natural effect when you're doing something positive.
Steve, I like to share this story as well. This quick story 2 weeks ago, there was a gentleman that stopped by our facility, and he was driving a 53-foot tractor trailer, and he stops and he comes in and wants to know, do you guys need some food? And so they were like, let me go get. So I go out there and I'm like, what do you mean, do we need food? Because I'm like, where did he come from with this? Because this is not somebody I know. And he said, well, let me explain this to you. I said, what's that? He said, 3 years ago, I was out of work, and this was the place that fed me. And I said, is that right? And he said, yeah. And I said, man, I'm grateful. He said, no. He said, I just had a load of, chips. He said, I took these chips to drop them off. And he said, they rejected the load because the UPC was wrong on them. I said, okay. And he said, when I was coming back, he said, the first thing that thought to my mind, he said, because I called the dispatcher and asked him, said, they rejected the load. What you want me to do with it? He said, take it and give it to somebody. And he said, the first person I thought was, 3 years ago, you fed me. This was a chance for me to come back and give you something. And so he had he came out there and dropped off 14 pallets of chips.
Wow.
And but just to think about that, and I've never seen the guy, but he just said 3 years ago, he said, I had to come through this line because I lost my job.
Reaping what you sow, right?
Right.
That's a terrific story.
Yeah.
So you kind of may have already answered this, but what advice would you give someone wanting to get involved with an organization or a ministry like this, or a church like yours, or anything that you're involved with as well, Cathy? What advice would you give? Besides, get up and go do it.
Just show up. Show up. If it's in the summer, you're going to want to wear shorts, and if it's in the winter, you're going to need an extra scarf, and if it's raining, govern yourself accordingly.
Suck it up.
But just come.
Well,
it's and people think, well, I have a bad back, I can't help. There are things. We need as many hands as we can get, and there are things for everyone to do.
If it was perfect number of volunteers on a typical Thursday, what would be that perfect number?
What about probably about 55?
Okay.
I think about 55.
That's what we have.
That's what we have.
What we would like is 75.
Okay. So you're typically 50 to 60, and you could probably easily use 75.
Oh, easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. What about you, Rodney? Any advice you would give, or did Cathy cover it pretty well?
I think one of the most rewarding things for humanity and mankind is serving. I don't think you put a price dollar on that. To me, it's just something about the fulfillment of it. And, just to realize, you just help somebody, but then they come back next week and say, thank you so much. And I think so many times we look at from the negative perspective, you're going to always have one or two people, maybe try to take advantage. But for the most part, you got to realize for a person to swallow their pride, to come and get on the line, wait an hour to get food, they need that food.
Yeah, there's always going to be exceptions to that rule, but my experience is that is not.
Nah,
that is a super, super small percentage.
It's super.
So listen, I appreciate you guys sharing that. So now we're going to typically we talk about some pretty heavy things on this podcast, but for the most part, really positive, and this is kind of uplifting. But we're gonna shift gears here for just a couple of minutes and talk about the things that people are really interested in. Because this is a podcast about Gaston County and some of the things in Gaston County. And truth is, I don't even know what we have. 2 sets of questions. I'm not sure what set of questions we sent y'all. So I'm just going to make this up as we go. So if I ask a question that's not on your sheet, answer it anyway, please. All right. So I'm going to start, Cathy, with you. Favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
Chocolate peanut butter milkshake.
Okay,
Extra scoop.
That's impressive. And that was like, I got this exactly.
Non-negotiable. That's it.
Rodney, what about you?
Lemon. That's mine.
That is you are the second person that has said lemon. The other was Vincent Sherry, which I assumed he would say something with cherry, but I got to give y'all credit. And a couple episodes ago, we haven't released it yet, but we actually had a taste test in here with Steve DeAvia and Patrick Mumford from the Gaston Business Association. So I have to give, lemon was good. Lemon was one of the options, and I was shocked, frankly, to give Tony Coletta. He's getting a lot of press on this episode. I got to get him on here to be our advertiser or something one of these days. Sundrop or Cheerwine?
Sundrop.
That was very quick and the same. Yes. Okay. Do you prefer Eastern or Western North Carolina style barbecue, Rodney?
Western.
You were the man.
Kyle Fletcher's.
Okay, that's
whatever Kyle Fletcher's is serving.
That's pretty much Western.
Yeah, that's Western.
Yeah. How about a favorite local restaurant?
Mayworth.
Mayworth's good. Yeah.
It's funny
with the Cramerton connection.
I was going to say Dolphers, which is right next door to Mayworth. Yeah, both great places.
Cramerton getting the shout out. Downtown Cramerton. I've been to both. Yeah, they're really good. Favorite outdoor activity or place to visit here in Gaston County?
Playing golf.
Oh, I did not know that you were a golfer. You a scratch golfer?
No, I scratch.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, not a scratch golfer though. Yeah, but that's my favorite outdoor activity.
Okay.
I got to come back to Cramerton again and say Goat Island.
Yeah, Goat Island's great.
Canoeing and kayaking and jumping on the thread trail.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Goat Island's a great addition. So here's a question, being an NC State guy, I have to throw this question in there just because, we get sick and tired of hearing about UNC and Duke. And so I'll throw it in here. UNC Duke or NC State?
UNC.
Now I'm his favorite.
Yeah.
Kathy? Yeah.
Got it.
Maybe we can edit every comment that Rodney has on it. We just edit it out of the Rodney, I married a Tar Heel, so I have a mixed family, but luckily I have one daughter at NC State and the other two kids are NC State fans, so my wife is a very good sport about it, so it's all good. Cathy, what is something very few people know about you?
That I was born in Italy and got my pilot's license while I was in college.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
See?
An Italian pilot. I did not know that. That's a terrific answer. Rodney, top that.
I can't top that, man. I think let's see. I dug a well in Honduras.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I have one of the few places that I have been on mission work has been to Honduras with my Rotary Club and doing freshwater work.
That's who it was for.
Wow, that's great to hear.
Yep.
Rodney, how about a recent book or article or blog or something that you've read or something you would recommend to the listeners?
Oh, I'd recommend, this is my favorite all-time book, Good to Great, Jim Collins.
Jim Collins, yes. The BHAG.
Yeah, that changed my life.
That's a great book, and it's one that we have in our library here, and one I've read at least twice. And the first time I was probably too young to really grasp it, but later on in my business career, that is a terrific recommendation. Kathy, how about you?
The 100-Story Home. It's by Cathy Izzard out of Charlotte, and it's about solving the homeless situation in Charlotte. And it's an awesome book.
100-Story Home. Okay, and what was the author's name again?
Cathy, Kathy, Izzard, Izard.
Okay, great. We will make sure to find that. Do we put the book titles in the show notes? Okay, sorry. Elizabeth is here with us, and she's actually the one in charge. I really don't have a clue about what's going on around here. All right, well, that's good. So, so we're I appreciate those answering those questions. That's really what Gaston County listeners, at least the 6 listeners that we have on this episode. Actually, after this one, it's gonna blow up, I'm sure, to about 50,000 listeners after they hear this story.
Right.
So we're going to finish up here with a few more questions. Can you both share maybe maybe Rodney, we'll start with you. Besides Bountiful Blessings and Mount Zion Restoration Church and in general, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place?
So I would like to say is the diversity. I think it's the inclusion and equality that has created momentum like I've never seen before in my 20 years. That's
a good answer. And I'm going to throw a shout out to you as well. I know your involvement with the covenant that was I was involved with that a little bit through Gaston Together as the board chair and being on that organization. But what you and others involved with and frankly the law enforcement here have done a good job with that. And if you're not familiar with that, if listeners out there, I would encourage you to go. You can probably Google that, or I'm sure there's some place where you can go to find that covenant that was made between, I guess, clergy and citizens and law enforcement. So
yeah. So you can get it on Gaston Together website.
Okay, yeah. Boy, I should have known that. Donna Locke is going to kill me for not saying that immediately. Sorry, Donna. Jeez, maybe Donna will not listen to this one. Cathy, how about you? What would you say?
I agree with Rodney. It's what sets our area apart. I mean, there's fabulous things here. We've got the Daniel Stowe Botanical Gardens. We've got the mountains, the river, the lake. Love WSGE. That's college radio. That's a really cool thing.
That's a good one. Yeah, we haven't heard that one on yet, but that's a great one. Yeah. So this is probably my favorite question. For Rodney, it's been a little longer. Cathy, I know this has just been a couple of years ago. So, Cathy,
why are you laughing at that?
What advice, you could look back, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self? Or what's something you wish you knew then that you know now?
I would say just that I would tell myself it's going to be a great life. I would never have imagined that I would have had the good fortune that I've had. Just a life full of blessings. So don't worry about it. It's all going to be great.
Yeah, worrying doesn't get us very far, does it?
No.
And I sure worried about some things when I was 20 that I had no idea. It was almost meaningless, but it sure seemed like a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
Rodney, what about you?
I would tell myself to explore life before you get too serious. Because I got too serious too early.
Yeah.
I wish I had explored life and just went and just wilded out for a while. I know that's not a good thing for the preacher, but I wish I had done that.
Hey, this is not just for. Well, I'm gonna let that one go.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Don't comment on that.
No, that's a good point. Again, there's more to the world than Gaston County and Gastonia, and spreading those wings a little bit and being exposed. I've been fortunate to travel all over the country and a couple places internationally, and it also makes you realize how great a place Gaston County is. But it's always good to come home, but it is nice to explore other places and meet other people. So, guys, listen, this has been really good. So this is where we're going to finish up here briefly. But where can listeners go to learn, to volunteer? How can they help? And specifically maybe talking about the Shannon Bradley Road property, is there some specific needs that you have coming up that, there may be some listeners who, hey, that's right down my alley. But again, just kind of share how can people get in touch with you or get involved and volunteer or help in some way?
Well, I'll talk about the Shannon Bradley. I'll let Cathy tell you how to get involved.
Okay.
So with the Shannon Bradley project, we're wanting the community, the community to be involved in this process. And the reason why I say that is because for the last 20 years, our church has done it. Okay, but it's gotten to the place now that I feel as though it's bigger than our church, and it's the community. So I don't want the identity to be with our church. I want the identity to be within the community. So I've talked to a couple of officials that are looking. I can't want to call no name, but that are seeking to help us.
Okay.
Because the thing about it, and I believe this with all my heart, and I hope nobody take this personal, but the things that we are doing. It's not Mount Zion problem. I think it's a community issue.
Sure.
And so I think the community need to have some buy-in on it. And so that's what we're looking for is with the 1520 Shannon Bradley Road, that facility, if anybody got a connection with anybody at AT&T, that's what I need.
Okay.
I need somebody with a connection with AT&T with that, and they want to give toward the efforts. I mean, that's fine. But I just believe that the community, we're going to pull together and make this happen. So, and I need it to happen before September the 5th, though, because that's when we're going back into our church.
Okay.
So right now, I would have been in church if I'd had a facility, but since we're not, that's why we're going to be the last church in Gaston to go back. Because I don't have nowhere to store all that stuff we got.
All right, so listeners out there, somebody with AT&T connections, and you heard it here. And so, Cathy, what about just general volunteers and how to get involved? Or I think I saw it on nice big Facebook page for Bountiful Blessings. So what you can share there?
That's a great place to go is Bountiful Blessings Food Pantry. And it's Facebook will keep you updated on what's happening there. The physical location is at Mount Zion, and the time that we need the most volunteers is on Thursday morning. Most volunteers show up between 7 and 7:30. People start coming through the line at 8. We're there until around midday. We do feed the volunteers lunch, and it's always fabulous, so you can stay for that. But even if you can just come and do an hour or 2 hours, we appreciate any time that we can get. Occasionally we'll be rained out on a Thursday and it moves to Saturday, but 95% of the time it's going to be Thursday mornings.
Am I right, too? Thank you for sharing that. Am I right, too, though, Rodney, that your church, I mean, your service is online every week, correct?
Right. It's online every week at 9 a.m. sharp. Right. We start at 9 a.m. sharp, and we do go for 75 minutes, not 2 hours, not 3 hours. Let me make sure they understand that.
All right.
That's not our church. That's somebody else's church. We do not go 2 hours or 3 hours. So it's just 75 minutes. It'll be good.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate that. If this isn't the most listened to episode, I will be stunned because this has really been good. And I can't thank you guys enough for your time this morning. So we're going to finish up here, and something that we've been doing on these podcasts is I try to have my own book recommendation and maybe finish up with a quote or thought of the week. So I decided to go old school with what I call a personal development classic, maybe the all-time classic. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This is one of my favorites, and I think we mentioned early about Good to Great. It took me a couple times to get that book. I think it actually took me reading this one 3 times. I think I read this Dale Carnegie book when I was just too young to think those concepts were important. Maybe I was too self-absorbed or really needed somebody to whack me on the back of the head, and he kind of did that for me. But that's one of my favorites, and I would strongly recommend if you're someone who's trying to kind of learn more about yourself and learn and figure out how to interact with others better. I would recommend that. And then I picked a quote this week, kind of tying in with what Rodney and Cathy are doing in the community, and this comes from Dr. Seuss. And one of my things is I think you can learn everything you need to learn about life from Yoda and Dr. Seuss if you pay attention enough. But this one is kind of on compassion. Again, ties in with our discussion today. But Dr. Seuss said, "Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not." So keep that one in mind. It takes people that care, and I think Bountiful Blessings is a great example of that, and something that's obviously a big reason why Gaston is so great. So to your listeners out there, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. Please spread the word if you can about the podcast, and please don't hesitate to contact us here at podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at our website, gastonsgreat.com. And please follow us on our social media platforms. You can also find us and subscribe on most podcast services such as iTunes, Spotify, and Google. Thanks again to Rodney and Cathy from Bountiful Blessings for being our guests today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Amy Anderson and Elizabeth King from GSM Services and edited here locally by the Sumner Group. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.